What's up guys, ATCZ here, and today we're going to do something different, something that we haven't tried before on this channel. We're going to discuss how we're going to counter the meta, because the national season is about to begin in about 1 month from now, and we also have the qualifiers. So I think it's important to start preparing for what we're going to face, and what the ban list will most probably leave as the most powerful deck. So that's why we're going to start with how to beat Salamangreats. Salamangreats are pretty much more or less confirmed to be the best deck after the ban list before Sky Strikers get hit. Sky Strikers can still check it, but when the ban list drops, Konami will probably address Sky Striker and Danger Thunder Dragon, and that will leave Salamangreat as the most popular and the deck to beat for the next format. So I think it's important to have a look at how the deck actually functions and which cards tend to be more successful against it. Even like we can take notes from the OCG and from the tournaments we've had so far while the deck was around. And the first card we're going to discuss is DD Crow. DD Crow is a hand trap that became a lot more popular lately. It's even a good card to main deck because it's not good against just Salamangreats. It's really good against Orcust and against Sky Strikers as well. So I think DD Crow is a good card to have in the main deck, especially in the falling format, because you can hit Spinny, you can hit the trap cards, which Sunlight Wolf tries to recycle, and you can also hit Foxy after they've discarded for the cost, so that you get rid of it while also protecting your face-off spell and traps from its effect. So it's a really good card to have in your arsenal, especially when you want to fight when you're going second, because going first is the Salamangreat way to go. They try to set up a couple back row, grab as much advantage as possible, and try to push during the next turn. So they'll always want to go first. So that's why DD Crow is a good card to have in the main deck in case you lose the die roll. Now the next two cards are not that generic as DD Crow. I think you should play these cards only in the side deck and only if your deck does not rely on its normal summon that much. So any kind of Thunder Dragon Danger variant would use these cards really well. The first card is Denkoseka. Denkoseka is pretty much the most powerful card you can play against Salamangreat because it relies on its back row for its protection. It runs Twisters, Call by the Grave, and its two signature traps, Roar and Rage. So shutting all those cards down means that you can proceed with plays with no interruptions. And since you run Denkoseka, that means your deck is pretty much very powerful because you don't rely on your normal summon, you run a couple Dangers, or maybe some other kind of deck that does not need its normal summon like Necros that can ritual summon a lot of monsters and push for game. And Denkoseka, again, is not just for Salamangreat. It can work against any kind of back row deck. It's really good against Sky Strikers. It's also very good against Subterror, which is another popular deck that we're going to see a lot more after the ban list drops. So yeah, I think Denkoseka is the most powerful card you can run against this deck. And the last monster I'm going to include in this list is Sphere Mode. Sphere Mode is a kind of a risky card because if your opponent sees it coming, they might not leave 3 monsters on the field. With that logic, you could play Lava Golem instead, but Lava Golem is kind of more difficult to deal with because it actually has points. So I think Sphere Mode should be used carefully because, yeah, the usual Salamangreat combo ends with Sunlight Wolf, Balinx, and Miraz Stalio. Any Kaiju would not work because Salamangreat players have just figured out that they just need to use their Jaguar to make a Balinx so that they have 2 links on the field, so even if one gets rid of by a Kaiju, they can still use a Roar and the Rage. So Sphere Mode and Lava Golem are much better because they get rid of both links, but I think Sphere Mode is a little bit better than Lava Golem just because of the fact that it's a monster that you don't have to get rid of and cannot be a problem for you later. Lava Golem is also a fire monster, so if they have it on the field, they can use it easily for Sunlight Wolf. One advantage Lava Golem has over Sphere Mode is that it deals damage, so if your opponent is playing slowly during the first turn and it's getting very close to time, then if you drop the Lava Golem and just make a couple of protection, and you pass, and they'll take 1,000 damage during your standby phase, and if they can't deal you enough damage during that turn, then they're pretty much going to lose by time. But I don't think it's a good enough reason to choose Lava Golem over Sphere Mode. Now the spells are the most interesting way, in my opinion, to counter Salamangreat, and not the most cliché ones. The first one is Super Polymerization. This is a really good card because it can either be used defensively or offensively. If you use it during your opponent's turn, you can just get rid of their combo pieces and get a Violet Chimera on the field. And when going second, it's also a very powerful card because not only does it get rid of monsters, it's a card that your opponent cannot respond to. So even if they have Roar, they cannot negate Super Poly. The problem with Super Poly is that it's a limited card. Technically it's searchable, but it's not searchable by cards that are mostly played right now. The Predaplant Engine and some other cards that can do it. If it goes to 2, then maybe it will be a very, very powerful card against the deck because you can rely on it more consistently. But even now, I think it's a really good card to not run in your side deck, even as a one-off, because if you draw it, you have so much pressure under the Salamangreat player because you use their own monsters against them. And Violet Chimera is a very powerful monster because it gains the attack points, half the attack points of the monsters you used. So it usually comes out with more than 4,000 attack points, so you can put a lot of damage on the board just with one card. And the other spell I'm including is a card that I haven't seen anyone talk about, and I think it's a really, really good card against Salamangreat, and that's Lair of Darkness. Lair of Darkness has a lot of strengths against Salamangreat, and a lot of strengths in general because it's a field spell. So if your deck includes terraforming, like if you're playing Trickstars or you're playing Sky Strikers, if you already have your field spell and you don't need a search, you can include Lair of Darkness in your side deck as a searchable floodgate. And the strengths against this deck is that it makes all monsters on the field dark, and Sunlight Wolf and Heatlio need fire monsters in order to be able to summon. So your opponent will be stuck with the Balings, and their only outs to this card is either hard drawing, the one rage they only play once, so it's pretty unlikely that they'll have it, or if they summon Phoenix to deal with it, which a lot of Salamangreat players have cut from their deck. But even if they have it, you can just hold one negation for the Phoenix and you can protect your field spell. While also being a field spell, it's safe from Heatlio and Impermanence, because Heatlio can only hit cards in the original spell and trap zone, not the field zone, and Impermanence cannot be used in the same column as a field spell, so it cannot negate it like it could negate something like an ordinary floodgate, so it has a lot of advantages over that as well. And I think it's a really good card. The only problem is if it can maybe contradict with your deck, maybe because like if you're playing Sky Strikers, it will give you tokens during the end phase if you tributed Ray, so you won't be able to use your spells, but you can play carefully and play around that. And it's a card you cannot side if you're playing Salamangreat yourself, because it'll lower the power of your deck as well a lot. But if you're playing anything else, I think it's the best floodgate you can run against Salamangreat. And now for the actual floodgates, I'm including the two usual ones. There can be only one and summon limit. The first one, there can be only one, you should be very careful when using it because it's a card that contradicts with most decks. So if you're playing, for example, Sky Strikers, and you flip there can be only one, you are stuck with the one Sky Striker monster you have in the extra monster zone, you cannot summon another one. So you have to be sure to have multi-roll or area 0 to get rid of your own field spell. And that's why I think summon limit is a lot better than there can be only one. Because not only does it not contradict with your deck that much, because you can, after going first and setting up a board, you can go with summoning 2 monsters per turn, so you don't have to get rid of immediately, so you can keep your opponent's deck at bay and checked for more than one turn, as if with there can be only one, you can only keep it for 1 turn if you want to push. And it's not a susceptible card to Foxy that much, because you don't have to flip it immediately. You can just wait for them to summon 2 monsters and then activate it. So unlike there can be only one, you make them commit to the board, and then you can get rid of what they have, because there can be only one, you only allow them to summon 1 monster. Summon limit allows them to summon 2 monsters, so you can get rid of both of those monsters. So that's why I think summon limit is a much better option than there can be only one if you're looking for a trap floodgate to use against Salamangreats. And the last card I'm going to mention is Lost Wind. Lost Wind has increased in popularity a lot lately, and I can see why. Against Salamangreats is a very good card because not only does it permanently negate Sunlight Wolf, so your opponent is forced to get rid of that Sunlight Wolf to summon another one, and there can only summon too many Sunlight Wolves in a game and recycle them with Jack Jaguar's effect, but it's also a card that can reset itself, so if you're using multiple copies and you happen to draw them, you basically have double, it's like having extra cards. Then advantage is everything against Salamangreat. The more cards you have against the deck, the more chances you have of beating it. So I think a card that can be used as 2 copies per copy is a very powerful card against that deck. It's also good against decks like Sky Striker because Kagari and Shizuku are very important for the combos. It's also really good against Thunder Dragons because you can permanently stop a Colossus. So it also cuts the attack in half, which makes the monsters very easy to get rid of. And it's also a card that lowers attack, so its function can be used in the damage step as well, which is very important and can catch a lot of people off guard without allowing them to use anything as a response because you're using it in the damage step. So have in mind that Lost Wind is going to be a card that you will see a lot of, even in this format and during the next format. So yeah, this is my opinion on how to counter Salamangreat. I think Salamangreat is a fair deck, while being the best deck just because it can get a lot of advantage and also have negations. The best decks can do set up a defensive board, be very consistent and have a lot of recursion, and also have always the pressure to OTK. And Salamangreat does all of these 3 things in a very balanced way, and that's why I think it's the best deck of the format. So knowing how the deck works, knowing how to side against the deck, knowing how to play against the deck is very important to go to the next format so you can do well at your nationals and your World Championship qualifiers. So that's it for this video, guys. Tell us if you want us to continue this kind of videos and talk about how to beat certain decks or the upcoming meta decks. Leave us your thoughts in the comments. if you have any other kind of suggestions on how to beat Salamangreats, and we'll see you next time.